We now turn to our major speaker of the day, someone who has been elected by you from your ranks. And I'd like to ask Derek Van Bever to come forward. Derek is a candidate for the MDiv degree in a very few minutes and has distinguished himself here as a constant leader and presence in his 3 years at Harvard Divinity School. Derek, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the podium.
If I could start with one note and a glance to my right. Reverend Gomes, we are comforted by your memory in that pulpit of yours, which, as you were so fond of saying, stands 10 feet above contradiction and is looking pretty good right now. And I want to make sure that he heard us a few moments ago. So if we could repeat that welcome. Reverend Gomes, wherever you are, and I think we've all got a pretty good idea where he is. It is my distinct honor to announce today that the Harvard Divinity School class of 2011 is in the house. Congratulations. Now, I heard Matt yesterday, and I know full well that commencement day is about looking forward and not going back. But as I've been thinking ahead to this day of taking our leave of Harvard Divinity School as graduates, my mind has kept going back to my very first experience of HDS. I want to invite members of the class to close your eyes and see if you can recall your first impression of this place, the first time that you set foot on campus or laid eyes on the school. I remember that day with crystal clarity. I came to campus on Theological Education Day 4 years ago with huge butterflies in my stomach. I know many of us came wondering that day if and how we belonged here. I came carrying a particular burden. I was coming from a career in business, so straight from the belly of the capitalist beast. And I was pretty sure that I was easy to spot. In fact, this was a return to Cambridge for me. I attended business school here about 20 years ago, and I'd spent the intervening decades helping to found and grow a company that I cared the world about. Like many of you, I left work that was important to me because I had some unanswered questions I hoped to address here. So I walked these halls trying to visualize myself as a student again. It was a Wednesday, so we made our way dutifully to noon service, where the student who welcomed us that day said the following curious thing. When I came to Harvard Divinity School, I would have described myself as spiritual. Now, as I prepare to graduate, I am proud to describe myself as religious. Do you all remember that? Does anybody remember that moment? Boy, that caught my attention. I talked with her for about a half hour after the service that day, and she told me about the faces of God that she'd become acquainted with here, and the faces of God that she'd seen reflected in those of her classmates. And I'll have to tell you, I was hooked. While I couldn't have named it in advance, I did find what I was searching for at Harvard Divinity School on that first visit. Professor McCannon actually put words to this 2 years ago when he said in a lecture, if you are spiritually alive, you're going to be in motion in some way. By that standard, HDS is like a pinball machine. We are a school filled with people in motion. Dean Graham, distinguished faculty, staff, alumni, family, friends, and my fellow graduates, welcome to our commencement day, the day on which we celebrate all of this motion, these changes and transformations that have taken place in ourselves and in each other across whatever length of time we've spent in this incomparable place. I'd like to reflect today on just how it is that such spiritual transformations take place here. And as hard and dangerous as it is to make blanket generalizations about anything concerning Harvard Divinity School, I am going to try one nonetheless. I'll suggest that what makes this school and this community singular is reflected in our preoccupation with a single question. Now, it's not the obvious question, the question that students at most colleges and graduate and professional schools obsess over. That question is being asked over and over again today in every corner of campus, commanding the full attention of the soon-to-graduate. It is, of course, the standard question, what are you going to do? Right? Nervous titter. Students ask this of each other. Family and friends ask this of the students, sometimes anxiously. Not our family and friends, of course. Thank heavens we've got all that next question stuff squared away, right? Right? That was my only joke, I hope. The truth is that this question, what are you going to do, is somewhat unsatisfying to us here at HDS because we're after bigger game. We focus on a different verb. Now, don't get me wrong. We ask each other the question, what are you going to do, all the time. We have to, given the state of the job markets that we're graduating into. But when we settle into conversation, when we lean in to conversation in those cavernous chairs in Rockefeller Hall, those are the times when we talk about an entirely different question. And that question is, who are you going to be? Now that is a question that provides food for the winter, and we have been through some winters in our time together here in Cambridge. Who am I going to be is the question of the seeker, one who is on the way. And it is the question that can make a way out of no way. It's probably not an exaggeration to say that this is the question that would cause someone to come here in the first place, because it is, like Divinity School itself, enlarging rather than narrowing. And it's woven into every aspect of the experience here at HDS. It's the central animating question in our ethics and theology and religion and ministry courses, and it's the question that hovers over our gatherings as a community. Typically, we see these questions reversed too often in our society and in our lives. We focus on what am I going to do so intently that we come to believe that we are what we do. And then we wake up and mourn who we could have been. I know that's what happened to me. HDS encourages us to put these questions in their proper order, to use being to shape doing, to engage in the rich moral formation that comes from using insights into our identity to shape the work of our hands. And there's a reward for this. The peculiar gift of this institution, so focused on being, is that its students express themselves in being for. Look around this room. Seriously, look around this room. You will see people who are graduating into missions of service to congregations, to students, to the living and to the dying, to those in need of rescue and of release, to those who seek companionship in their joys as well as in their sorrows. What you see arrayed around this sanctuary, enrobed, is a beautiful and faithful set of answers to this question of being. I don't know all of the people in this class, but I know a lot of us. And I know that the more time that I spend with this group of people, and the more deeply I get to know each of them, the more they quicken my heart. If you're new to this community, or if you know only one or a handful of us, know this about the commitments of the people whose graduation you are celebrating today. Know that we love the stranger, because we were strangers once too in the land of Egypt. Know that we love the Lord our God with all of our hearts and all of our souls and all of our might. Know that we believe that there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is his prophet. Know that we are humanists and that we don't need God to be good to each other. Know that we seek an end to the suffering of all sentient beings. And know that we seek to embody the gifts of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, and love. It is that generous, abundant spirit that drew me here, that perhaps drew you here as well, and that animates our gathering today. What impresses me most about my classmates at Harvard Divinity School is that they've already learned a lesson that it takes most people a lifetime to learn, but they've carried it in their hearts since before they arrived. Wendell Berry writes about this lesson in one of his Sabbath poems. It's one of my favorites. I have it on my wall. Now, I should confess that I hesitated before including this poem here today because I was worried that it sounded like an old man talking. I then did some research on the poem and realized that Berry was just a few years older than I am now when he wrote it, so I changed my mind completely. This is not an old man talking. This is wisdom. Listen to what Berry has to say about the art of living and of being. Sabbath Poem 1, 1993. No, there is no going back. Less and less you are that possibility you were. More and more you have become those lives and deaths that have belonged to you. You have become a sort of grave, containing much that was and is no more in time, beloved then, now, and always. And so you have become a sort of tree standing over a grave. Now, more than ever, you can be generous toward each day that comes young, to disappear forever, and yet remain unaging in the mind. Every day, you have less reason not to give yourself away. Every day, you have less reason not to give yourself away. That sentiment is perhaps not surprising coming from the pen of a poet looking back across a career, but it is positively inspired to hear it from those who are looking forward, running the early and middle stages of the race. Look around this room at all of these talented, beautiful faces and rejoice. This day is about looking forward and about the reality that there is no going back. That's the truth that people in motion know. So I offer this wish to the Harvard Divinity School class of 2011. Go out, do what you will, but be who you are in the world. Heaven knows this world needs you. It's your heritage as graduates of this singular institution. It is your privilege, and we are all here recipients of embarrassing, staggering privilege. And it is the world's great good fortune that you set forth today on the next stage of this pilgrimage. For you were made for the love of the world. For the love of the world, congratulations and Godspeed.